This episode is sponsored by ORGAIN. Looking for an easy way to improve your health and eating habits? Check out ORGAIN's 30-gram shakes, full of protein-packed real nutrition designed to satisfy your cravings. They're a great source of complete protein with all 9 essential amino acids to give you energy while maintaining hunger and helping you maintain a healthy lifestyle. Plus, ORGAIN shakes are made with no artificial ingredients or sweeteners and only 1 gram of sugar. ORGAIN 30-gram protein shakes are available at Costco, or you can support the show by heading to orgain.com/command and using code COMMAND for 20% off your order.
Greetings, humans. You have entered the Command Zone, your destination for all aspects of Elder Dragon Highlander. Enjoy your stay.
Oh, I just died in your arms tonight. Must have been something said. Just died in your arms tonight.
I should have walked away.
Guitar.
More synth stuff.
More synths. Cool guitars.
80s synth stuff.
It's an 80s song. I think.
It's 80s, right?
Yeah, it's gotta be.
You know what? Duskmourn is sort of like ambiguously 80s and 90s horror movies anyway.
Throwback horror slasher films. Love it. That's right. What's up, everyone? You are watching / listening to the Command Zone podcast. I'm one of your hosts today, Jimmy Wong.
How's it? It's Josh Lee Kwai.
We're singing. That means it's a Precon reveal and upgrade. We've done a twofer now, where we get to reveal the brand new Precon from Duskmourn. This one is called Death Toll.
Yeah, hence we died in your arms tonight.
Yeah, it's Golgari, black and green. And unlike before, now we're starting to also do the upgrade video in the same video, which will be after the break. So you're getting a lot of value from this episode.
Yeah, we're going to show you all the contents of this Precon. This will be the first time everyone's seeing all the new cards. Plus, there's a whole scheme deck in here for Archenemy. We'll do the normal reprint value breakdown, everything like that. And then, in the second half of the video, we're actually going to go through, and Jimmy has done the budget upgrade guide for this deck as well. So, a 2-for-1. Of course, we all like value, and one of the best places to go for value is cardkingdom.com/command if you want to pick up or pre-order this Death Toll Precon or any of the other Precons from Duskmourn, or you want to get yourself a booster box, a collector's booster box, a bundle, something like that. They have sealed product, they have singles, they have everything you need. They have a huge inventory. If you want to build a brand new deck around any of the cool new legends that you're seeing from Duskmourn, cardkingdom.com/command has everything you're looking for in the version you're looking for, in the condition that you're looking for. And the best thing about it is they are one place, one-stop shop. You go, you order, you add everything to cart, you check out. It all comes in one convenient package to your doorstep all at once, and you can just leave it up and play right away. So, it's new set time. That is new deck building time, and that means that I'm always like chomping at the bit, ready to go, and I want to play my deck after I build it as soon as possible. Cardkingdom.com/command is the best place that lets you do that, sort of the quickest and easiest.
Yeah, new set time means new art, new everything. ULTRAPRO.com/command for those playmats, deck boxes, sleeves. If you're getting a Precon and want the sleeves and the playmat to go along with it, well, Ultra Pro is going to have the exclusive license to be able to make all of that magic art come true. Actually, I don't know if you want this stuff to come true because it's kind of horrifying, but it's all there.
People really love horror.
Yeah, no kidding.
They like to be scared.
Right off of Bloomberg, no less. So ULTRAPRO.com/command, you can get all of the gameplay accessories that you need, that Josh, myself, and a lot of the folks here at the office trust our own collections to. And so if you love the theme of any particular set, ultrapro.com/command is going to have the product that matches the art from the set. And they also just have a bunch of generic looking stuff that's not generic looking, it's actually generic awesome because it's evergreen. My entire collection is sleeved up and put into the Ultra Pro color binders. It's color coded, so I'm all about it. They have the new Mana 8 stuff that's all just got the Mana symbols.
I love the Mana 8
beautiful
stuff.
White. Yeah, it's awesome. So ultrapro.com/command is going to have everything that you need to make your collection look amazing and awesome and not generic.
I loved the save on the generic looking.
I mean,
we knew what you meant, Jimmy.
Yeah, if you look at my collection, it's like, oh, there's just colored binders. That's like kind of generic,
that's
but it's
the
also
most useful.
Exactly what I need. Yeah.
Yeah, to me that's the most useful because I'm like, where are all my blue cards? Oh, in the blue
binder. Yeah, there it is.
All right, and of course, the final way to support all of our content is directly if you go to patreon.com/commandzone. There's all kinds of cool perks for our patrons, like getting to watch game nights and extra turns earlier than the general public. Also interacting with me, Jimmy, Rachel, Murph, Jake, a lot of our team on our Discord. We're on there each and every day answering questions and hanging out. There's also other perks like exclusive content that only our patrons get to see. If you want to join our community and support our content, again, patreon.com/commandzone.
All right, and we shout out one lucky patron every single episode. So this week's horrifying patron is Ian Barnfather.
Ian, you rock.
Well, that's a cool name.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into it here. We're going to do the Death Toll Commander Precon reveal from Duskmourn. The first half of this video is going to show you what's inside this box right here. We'll walk through all of the new cards. And then also we're going to show you all the new cards in the Scheme deck, which is the Archenemy only cards.
Yeah, that's why this deck is probably a little wider too, I think.
Yeah, probably. And then we're going to talk about the major reprints. We'll break down the value of those reprints. And then we will list off every card remaining in the deck and show them on screen. There is a decent amount of new art for Duskmourn, so that's cool. There's new versions of some of those reprints.
Classics,
yep.
yeah.
And then after that, we will go on to the upgrade part where Jimmy has broken down this deck, its stats, figured out how to upgrade it with 10 cards in, 10 cards out for $50 or less to kind of get it up to fighting shape as quickly as possible.
And this is a pretty powerful one, too, once we do that.
Yeah.
But let's meet the deck and talk about the contents inside. So, like all of the new precons, there are 10 new cards, which include the commanders, so 8 and 2. There's one card from the main set that's a new card, and then inside the deck itself, we have 75 reprints, 14 basic lands, and then 10 new Scheme cards. Scheme cards, sorry. So these are from Archenemy. If you decide to play it with your friends, it could be really fun. And each of the Scheme cards are basically, they're adding a new fold to Archenemy, and we haven't seen Schemes in quite a while.
Yeah.
So for people that enjoy Archenemy, this is a very exciting time for you.
Yeah, it was like 2017 because we did a Game Nights episode for Archenemy the last time it was around. Yeah, so if you want to look up the Archenemy rules and how that works, we will leave that to you, but we will show you all those cards. Okay, let's read the lead singer on this box here.
Yeah, it is Winter, Cynical, Opportunist.
Winter is coming.
Winter is coming, and we're quite cynical about it. So this is 2 a black and a green for a 2/5 human warlock with Death Touch, and whenever Winter attacks, mill 3 cards. And then a return of an old favorite, it has Delirium. So it says, at the beginning of your end step, you may exile any number of cards from your graveyard with 4 or more card types among them. If you do, put a permanent card from among them onto the battlefield with a finality counter on it. So at your end step, you could exile, for instance, an instance, sorcery, artifact, and a creature. There are 4 card types among those. And then you can put a permanent, so one of the creatures or the artifacts, onto the battlefield with a finality counter on it, which means if it would die, you exile it instead.
Yeah, it's a recursion mechanic, obviously, and Delirium back from, what was it, Shadows over Innistrad, which was a long time ago. And I think that tells us a lot about what the theme of the deck is going to be, and not that weird for Golgari to be playing around with his graveyard.
Yeah, and notably, there are a lot of cards in the deck that are like Artifact Creature, which counts as 2 in 1.
Yeah, in a deck like this, you want as many of those as you can, just get that make sure you hit Delirium.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, the backup singer in this deck, the other legendary creature that you could run as a commander right out of the box is Rendmaw, Creaking Nest. It's 3 a black and a green for a 5/5 legendary artifact creature. There you go.
There you go.
Scarecrow has Menace, and Reach. When Rendmaw enters, I wanted to say enters the battlefield, but it's only enters now.
Yeah.
When Rendmaw enters,
because there's a lot of text in this card.
And whenever you play a card with 2 or more card types, each player creates a tapped 2/2 black bird creature token with flying. The tokens are goaded for the rest of the game. They attack each combat if able, and attack a player other than you if able.
It's like a creepy, crawly artifact scarecrow that just starts pumping out the little birds that it's scaring away, and it's scaring them towards your opponents.
Yeah, that's pretty scary. I'm scared to give my opponents 2/2 birds. I know they're all goaded for the rest of the game, but eventually you get down to 1/1 and then they're like,
oh, sweet, you have 7 2/2s. Great.
It's very flavorful for a scarecrow, though, to be making birds for everybody.
Yeah, I like Rendmaw. It's really cool, and it itself is a 2-type creature artifact, so that helps with the deck itself.
All right, so there's 8 new cards remaining, which we're going to read off now. Again, we will try and keep our evaluation to a minimum. This is about revealing and not so much about evaluating.
Yeah. So
although the second half of this episode will be about evaluating.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
The first one is Deluge of Doom, 2 in a black. Sounds a little bit like Toxic Deluge, because it is. It says all creatures get -X until end of turn, where X is the number of card types among cards in your graveyard.
Okay.
All right. So again, Delirium deck, you could give them -2, -3, -4. You can get up there because you got Planeswalkers and Battles as well.
Yeah, I think you can. Yeah, you can get up to 7 now.
Yeah.
I believe is the highest you get if you had one of each card type in your graveyard.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't ask me to list them off though. Okay.
It might be more now that we have these new rooms as well, but those are
rooms are
enchantments, right?
enchantments, yeah.
Never mind.
The next card is called Demonic Covenant. It's 4 black for a Kindred enchantment. There you go. That's 2 card types right there because Kindred is
a card type. Yeah.
Yeah. Kindred enchantment demon. It also has a creature type. Okay. Whenever one or more demons you control attack a player, you draw a card and lose 1 life. At the beginning of your end step, create a 5/5 black demon creature token with flying, then mill 2 cards. If 2 cards that share all their card types were milled this way, sacrifice Demonic Covenant.
Okay.
So the easiest way I can think of where this would go bad for you is 2 lands.
Land, yeah.
Yeah, and they would share a type, and then you would have to sacrifice this. So it has a little bit of risk, but the upside's pretty high.
Make a 5/5 every turn.
Yeah, and mill 2, which is good for you, right?
Yeah. It does cost 6 mana, so when you get this down, if you happen to make 1 5/5 and it's gone, it's 6 mana for a 5/5, which isn't the worst.
Hopefully you drew a card off the first part too, like cast it, attack, draw a card, then this makes a 5/5. I think you're still sad if it goes away, but if you get if it doesn't and you get a second 5/5, you're pretty happy, right?
And it says share all their card types. So if it was an artifact creature and a creature, it wouldn't count.
Right.
Because it's sharing all their card types.
Interesting.
All right. Next up, we got Into the Pit. 2 in the black for an enchantment. You may look at the top card of your library at any time, and you may cast spells from the top of your library by sacrificing a non-land permanent in addition to paying their other costs. So if you have a token,
food,
treasures, you can sack that and play the card off the top of your library. It's a bit of a cost. We'll see in this deck, though, that there's actually a lot of token makers, which is nice.
And just in Magic, there's a lot of token makers these days. All right, the next one is a room card, which is a new enchantment type. And the way this works is there's 2 halves, and you can cast either half. And then at any time later, you can pay the mana cost and get the effect of the other half as well. So
unlocking the door.
Yeah, you unlock the door and go into the other room. But you can choose either side first and then either side second. Mm-hmm. Or no, sorry.
Whenever you can pay the cost later, yeah.
Yeah, you choose either side first and then unlock the other side second. You can't get the same side twice or anything like that. All right. This one is Polluted Cistern and Dim Oubliette. So Polluted Cistern is 1 and a black for an enchantment. It says, whenever 1 or more cards are put into your graveyard from your library, each opponent loses 1 life for each card type among those cards.
Ah, that's a cool little drain.
So yeah, when you mill, you could be draining them potentially for a lot, especially if you've got multiple card types on cards, like Artifact Creature. And then Dim Oubliette is 4 and a black. When you unlock this door, mill 3 cards, then return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So you would mill 3, drain them for a bit from the other side, and then return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. And when you do cast either half, that door unlocks on the battlefield. And then as a sorcery, I should have said, you can unlock the other door. So even if you choose to cast Dim Oubliette first, it would still count as unlocking it.
Yeah.
So you would still get the...
Yeah, it just happens to read a little better to say unlock on the more heavily costed door, assuming that you'd kind of want to do one than the other.
But if you drew it late and you're like, I
just want to reanimate something,
you can do that.
All right, Demolisher Spawn is the new one. This is a 5 green enchantment creature, 2 types, a horror. That's a 7/7 trample haste, and it has Delirium. Whenever it attacks, if there are 4 or more card types in your graveyard, other attacking creatures get +4 and +4 until end of turn.
Pretty good. Right. It's like a sort of Craterhoof variant.
Craterhoof, Pathbreaker, Ibex, all that types. This deck needs win cons, and this is exactly one of those.
Yeah, and it does have the haste, which is what you're looking for on those cards.
Haste.
Yeah. All right, the next one is Formless Genesis. 2 and a green for a Kindred Sorcery Shapeshifter. Interesting how a lot of these cards have 2 types. Yep. It's a changeling, which means this card is every creature type. It says, create an XX colorless shapeshifter creature token with changeling and death touch, where X is the number of land cards in your graveyard.
Ooh, okay.
And then it has Retrace. You may cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a land card in addition to paying its other costs. So you'll be feeding its growth kind of for the next one that you make. And then I guess it just kind of keeps getting bigger as you discard lands to cast it over and over.
And Retrace helps you get Delirium as well for your other cards. All right, next up we got the Ursine Monstrosity. 2 and a green for a 3/3 creature, just 1 card type. But it is a bear mutant, so it's two kinds of creatures.
2 creature types with 1 card type.
Yeah, one card type. Yeah. Again, if you want to know what the card types are, it's before the dash.
Yeah, and there's only like 7 of them. It's Planeswalker, Artifact. I'm not going to name them all,
yeah,
but you got it.
Yeah, because you clearly know them all.
Yeah.
We don't need to test you.
I could do it, but I'm just not choosing not to.
Exactly, yeah. So this Ursine Monstrosity has trample and says at the beginning of combat on your turn, mill a card and choose an opponent at random. So you roll a dice usually. Ursine Monstrosity attacks that player this combat if able, and until end of turn, it gets indestructible and gets +1/+1 for each card type among cards in your graveyard. So this could be like a 7/7, 8/8 trample. It has to attack, but it does get indestructible, so it's very annoying.
Super annoying. Could be hitting pretty hard.
Yeah.
All right. And then the last new card that's not a scheme card in this deck is Convert to Slime. It's 3, a black and a green for a sorcery. Just a sorcery, doesn't have 2 types. It says destroy up to 1 target artifact, up to 1 target creature, and up to 1 target enchantment.
Ooh.
Up to, so you don't need a target for all of them. You just can. And then it has Delirium. Then, if there are 4 more card types among cards in your graveyard, create an XX green ooze creature token where X is the total mana value of permanents destroyed this way.
Whoa.
Pretty big upside for having Delirium here. You could get
5 mana, remove 3, and get
like a 9/9 or something.
big creature, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet.
Yeah. Any card
Wish
that
it was
allows
an
you to
instant.
remove 3, yeah, don't we all? But 3 things, that's big game. Creature, artifact, and enchantment, that will often take care of a lot
of important things.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all the new Magic cards, and I guess are scheme cards Magic cards.
Well, they're just really big Magic cards, you know.
Yeah. So there's a scheme deck that comes with all of these precons, and these are cards that are only used in the Archenemy format, which we're not going to go over all of the rules here, but generally the Archenemy is playing 1 player against multiple players.
Yep.
And the way that they even this out, because they're playing their 1 deck, is that the Archenemy has a scheme deck that they start the game with, and they get to play one of these scheme cards off the top every single turn.
Yeah, at the beginning. It's like they flip it up. It's like, all right, this scheme has been set in motion, and then it overpowers their deck against the 3 that are trying to beat it.
Yeah, so we're going to read these scheme cards for you just so you know what's in here.
I think the idea, too, with the precons is that every precon can become the Archenemy and then play a scheme deck. And then, so if you want to mix up your 4-player game to be a 1v3, and there's also a variant where every player plays with a scheme deck.
Oh, wow.
And then it's like you defeated all the little, like, the innocents.
All the heroes,
all
you
the
mean?
heroes, yeah. And this is the villains are looking at each other like, hey, you guys want to battle?
Then it's just Suicide Squad.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Okay, so we're going to read off the schemes quickly. We're not going to really discuss them too much because, time.
Yeah. From experience, you'll play Archenemy a few times, but not a ton.
Yeah. Choose your champion is his first scheme. When you set the scheme in motion, target opponent chooses a player. Until your next turn, only you and the chosen player can cast spells and attack with creatures. So 1v3, it's like, I choose you.
All right, the next one is Plots That Span Centuries.
Ooh, very horror.
It says, when you set this scheme in motion, the next time you would set a scheme in motion, set 3 schemes in motion instead. Yep.
Which is brutal because you could open an ongoing scheme. So this is called My Tendrils Run Deep. And an ongoing scheme remains face up until it's abandoned.
Wow.
So you may play an additional land on each of your turns. And at the beginning of your end step, if you control 6 or more lands, draw 2 cards, then abandon this scheme.
Wow.
Jeez.
The next one is also an ongoing scheme. It's Dark Wings Bring Your Downfall. It says, whenever you attack, create a 5/5 black demon creature token with flying that's tapped and attacking. At the beginning of each end step, if 2 or more creatures died under your control this turn, abandon this scheme.
Okay. That's pretty good. And by the way, the other players against the Archenemy play like it's a 2-headed giant game. So they're attacking their turns at the same time, and they can also block for each other. I Am Never Alone is the next scheme. When you set this scheme in motion, create a token that's a copy of your commander, except it's not legendary.
Wow.
Jeez Louise.
The next one is Rot Like the Scum You Are. It says, when you set this scheme in motion, create a 2/2 green ooze creature token, then put a number of 1/1 counters on it equal to the number of lands your opponents control.
Man, ooze are getting big in this.
Yeah.
Next up, you live only because I will it. It's a scheme that says when you set this in motion, you may redistribute any number of life totals. Yikes.
So you can just be like, whatever's the highest one, I get that, and the lowest one go up too. Yeah.
Wow.
The next one is My Will Is Irresistible. It's when you set this scheme in motion, choose up to 3 non-land permanents you don't control. Target opponent chooses one of those permanents. You gain control of the rest.
Okay, pretty good.
Yeah.
Like that. Next up, My Wings Enfold All. The art on these, by the way, are awesome.
Yeah, they're very cool.
When you set this scheme in motion, choose one. Either draw 2 cards or until end of turn, whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, copy it, and you may choose new targets for the copy.
And then the last new scheme card is Your Mistake is My Triumph. When you set the scheme in motion, each player mills 3 cards. Then you put a permanent card from among the milled cards onto the battlefield under your control.
Okay, that's pretty good. Also, the Archenemy has 40 life and draws a card and goes first on their first turn, and everyone else has 20.
Yeah, we have played some Archenemy games, and the Archenemy often wins.
Yeah, often. But I will say, these schemes don't seem as overpowered as some of the older ones. It seems like it's a tiny bit more balanced. But
we'll
still
see.
Pretty good. Let us know.
Let us know. Let us know when you
try it out. Yeah.
Okay, that's all the new cards and schemes inside this Precon. Now we're going to move on to the reprint value for the set. Remember, we are taking all of these numbers from the time of recording this, which is before this deck is revealed. So as soon as we reveal the cards, the prices will begin to drop because people know they've been reprinted.
Yep.
So again, this is mostly useful for comparison purposes to the past because this is, we've been doing this for almost 10 years now, so we can compare it to a lot of data from before.
And the 10 cards that we talked about today that are brand new ones are not factored into this because we have no idea what the market will price them at.
Yeah, that's right. It's only reprint value. We can't obviously know the prices of the new cards that nobody's seen before.
So right now the deck is pre-ordering for about $45, which seems to be about the norm these days. Yep. And let's go off first by talking about the average Precon reprint value. So adding up all of the reprints and then getting the average cost of what they basically are between them. So we'll start off with the doozy, which is the Fallout Precons.
Yeah, we're going to compare this to the Precon reprint value from the past. So yeah, Fallout is a special case because Fallout and Warhammer 40K and some of the, like Doctor Who and stuff.
A ton of new cards.
They have more new cards. This one has 10 new cards, right? So 90 reprints.
Yeah.
Fallout has closer to like 30 new cards or something like that. And so their reprint value is a lot lower. It was $76.13.
Yeah, and we'll see that number change quite drastically once we get into the regular sets. Outlaws of Thunder Junction was a great one at $130.31.
Yep. Modern Horizons 3, very high at $167.69.
Yeah, makes sense.
Almost $168. Keep in mind, Modern Horizons 3, those precons were priced a little higher.
Yeah. So you didn't get as much bang for your buck, which we'll talk about in a second. And then Bloomborough, which just came out, was $137.81.
Yeah, and we've noticed that Precon reprint value has been going up and a lot this year as, we used to be just happy if it was above $100 on average, and we're getting that pretty consistently, which is nice. So the question is, what is death toll at? We can't speak for all of Duskmourn quite yet, but this one, Jimmy...
You just died in my arms tonight at $130.
$130 in reprint value. Very, very good.
Yeah, so round par with like Outlaws of Thunder Junction. We've seen this as well because they're now less afraid, or however you want to describe it, to start putting lands as reprints, which is really important because those are also great to swap into other decks should you need them.
Yeah, so this is we're really happy, I think, to see a number like this. It's not like extravagantly high, but it's definitely on the high end for what we've been used to, and I think, just right in the pipe.
We also didn't factor in the schemes, notably. Those also will hold some value as well.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in reprints, but the schemes from the past actually are, some of them are in like the $20 range, so there could be some real value there. Although they print precons at a higher rate now than they used to, so who knows. Okay, another way to look at this is what we call the bang for your buck metric, which sort of adjust for the price of the precon, or there's no MSRP anymore, but the price that you can generally find it at. Like we said, this is pre-selling for about $45. So if you look at bang for your buck, Fallout was $1.27 per every dollar spent. Now again, that's just reprint value. It didn't count the new cards, so the value in Fallout's actually much higher.
Yeah.
But because, we only can ever compare it to the prices before we reveal it, we just don't have the data on what the non-reprints were valued at in the end.
Okay, and then back to Outlaws of Thunder Junction, and we'll see again sort of a double here at $2.90 bang for your buck.
Yep. Modern Horizons 3 is $2.29 bang for your buck. And again, that speaks to the fact that Modern Horizons 3 precons were more expensive than...
to pre-order,
Yeah, than like these standard set legal ones.
Bloomborough hopped over the $3 line, hop, at $3.06.
And so death toll, assuming that you can find it at $45, the bang for your buck is $2.89.
Yeah, so very similar to the average reprint value for Outlaws and death toll. They're right at $130. This is both basically at $2.90 too.
Yeah, basically the same. And you see that the average reprint value for Outlaws was $130.31, and this is 130 even. So
yeah, it seems like you get better bang for your buck when these are regular sort of standard legal sets because they're not as hyped or they're not as like potentially powerful as like your Commander Masters or Modern Horizons, and so the pre-order price is a little more balanced.
Yeah, and there's different ways to look at it, right? If I spend $1, for every $1 I spend, I get $2.90 of value. That sounds great. But for Modern Horizons 3, maybe I get $100 total dollars in value back for my $60 spent. Yeah. Which, you know, depending on... those are kind of like toss-ups, I'd say, as far as like how much of value you actually get. But I like looking at it both ways. Yeah.
Giving more context is always nice.
All right, let's talk about the notable reprints in this deck. We are just going to list off the cards that are $5 or more at the time of this recording, and there are 7 of them.
Nice. So the first one is Professor Onyx, which is a Liliana, basically.
Strixhaven,
from
right?
Strixhaven, yeah, that was sort of cosplaying as a teacher. That was at $13.
$13. The next one is an oldie but a goodie from original Theros, right? Yep. It is Whip of Erebos, and it was originally $13. Or not originally. It was $13 until just now. Yeah. And this gives all your stuff lifelink and recurs stuff.
Very good in a deck with a lot of graveyard stuff. Yep. Next up is Titania, Nature's Force. This was an $11 card, and this allows you to play Force from a graveyard, and similar to Titania's.
Makes tokens.
Yeah, when the elementals die, you mill, but it also makes 5/3s.
All right, the next is very much a staple. Can go in almost any black deck.
Yeah, it's so good.
Very good, yeah. It was $9 up until just now. It's Reanimates.
Yeah, they've reprinted this card a bunch, actually, so it's great that they're able to keep putting it in. It's just one of the best cards of all time.
Yep.
Next up is Renin 7. This is a Planeswalker, I think from one of the spooky sets. Sure. Yeah, there's a spooky set. Yeah.
I'm not even going to try. I don't know which one.
I think it was one of the ones that was on Innistrad.
No, isn't it a Modern Horizons or something?
Though that was the Renin 6. This is Renin 7.
Okay.
Renin 8, we don't know. But we know Renin 9. 8, 9. Okay. Renin 7, though, $8.50. I couldn't.
Good commentary, Jimmy.
I couldn't put it together. I tried. I almost got there.
All right, the next one is a card I've been thinking about the whole time we've been talking because it's like the most emblematic card of like what, a lot of the cards are talking about 2 types going to your graveyard. Dryad Arbor was $8, and it is a land that is also a creature.
Yep.
Just kind of famously a weird card. It can be a little dangerous because of board wipes, but in a deck like this, very, very good.
Yeah, you play it as a land, but it counts as a creature as well. Next turn, you could swing it with it or tap it for mana.
Great if it gets milled. It's 2 things for Delirium.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing bad about it.
Arachnogenesis is the last one on the list here, $6.50. Just one of the classic, powerful fogs that makes you a bunch of 1/2 spider creature tokens. So again,
Olivia Gobert Hicks favorite.
Yeah, a lot of token makers in this deck so far.
Yeah. All right. So those are all of the notable reprints that are $5 or more in this deck. Again, the total reprint value $130. So there's a bunch of stuff that's sort of in the middle, $2 to $5. And now we are going to list off all of the cards in alphabetical order, and we will try and make note when they are new art.
Yeah. Here we go.
All right. The first one it's usually first on these lists. It's Arcane Signet, and it does have new Duskmourn art.
Nice. Next up is Ash Barons, and this also has new Duskmourn art. Very ashy.
Very ashy. Next one is Baron Moore. Same old art as before.
Same old art.
Could probably use an update someday.
Yeah, sure. Binding of the Old Gods. They should never change this art because Victor Dominguez's art is incredible, and it's actually a real wood carving. That's the best part about that one.
All right, and then it's Bojuka Bog. Another card I feel like could have new art.
Yeah.
It's deserving.
Burnished Heart. 2 card types.
Then there is Carrion Grub.
Cemetery Tampering. Cool hideaway card.
After that is a Command Tower, which they're doing this a lot for most sets. This Command Tower has new Duskmourn art.
A card that definitely could have new art, too, is Commander Sphere, but this one is just the old one.
There are some other arts of that, right?
That's right,
that exist. The next is Crawling Sensation, which is a self-mill enchantment.
Yeah, Shadows of Innistrad.
More tokens.
Culling Ritual. Next up, it's a little board wipe.
After that is an artifact land, Duskmoss Bridge.
Darkmoss Bridge.
Darkmoss. Sorry, not Duskmoss. I was thinking
Duskmourn Bridge.
Yeah.
And then we got Dead Bridge Chant. A lot of bridges happening up in here.
Yep. After that is Deathcap Cultivator, a mana dork that has Delirium.
Death Reap Ritual. This has new art. Very cool.
Then is Evolving Wilds.
Okay. And then Exotic Orchard.
Then we have the Giant Appendage. Giant Adaphage. Giant Adaphage. That's a deep cut. If you know that reference, well, sound off in the comments.
Sound off. Gnarlwood Dryad, Delirium, Little Death Toucher.
Then the Golgari Bounce Land, Golgari Rot Farm.
The Golgari Signet.
Then it is Grapple with the Past, an instant that self-mills you.
With new art. This one's new. It's very disgusting.
Oh, yeah.
Grim Backwoods. It's a cool little utility land.
Grim Flayer. I remember when that was relevant in Standard.
Yeah. Grizzly Salvage. Great little mill piece.
Then another Planeswalker, Grist the Hunger Tide.
Ooh.
And getting Planeswalkers in your graveyard will be important to hit to, just an easier way to hit Delirium, because it'll be easy to get creatures and lands in there.
Totally.
Yeah.
Next up is Harmonize.
After that is Harrow. This is good because it doesn't have 2 types, but it kind of does.
Yeah.
It puts an instant and a land into your graveyard. Yeah.
Haywire Might.
After that is Hornet Queen.
Ooh. Inscription of Abundance.
Then is Ishkana, Graph Widow. There's like a spider sub-theme going on.
Yeah. Jungle Hollow.
Then there's a Golgari Painland, which is Llanowar Wastes.
Then we got a Mind Stone.
Yep. Moldgraft Millipede is next.
Okay. Moldgraft Monstrosity, and this does have some new Duskmourn art.
Then there's Mulch. Classic.
Necroblossom Snarl.
Then there is Night's Whisper, and this is new Duskmourn art, and very cool.
Yeah, it's a girl getting haunted in her dreams. It's exactly Night's Whisper. Next up is Noxious Gearhulk. Great card, artifact creature as well.
Then there's a personal favorite of mine, Nyx Weaver.
Oh, yeah.
I really love this card. Blocks well, mills you, gets stuff back, does everything.
Obnixilis Reignited, another Planeswalker.
Then we've got Obsessive Skinner.
Okay. And then we've got Old Stick Fingers. I love that card.
Next up is another new Duskmourn art card on a sort of staple-ish, and it's got scary toys on it. It's Putrefy.
Ugh.
Scary dolls, I suppose.
And then we've got Rampant Growth.
And then Reliquary Tower.
Yeah, Charlotte Jesper. Sakura Tribe Elder is next. Steve.
Then a little graveyard hate here. Scavenging Ooze. Don't use that on yourself, probably.
And we've got Skola Grove Dancer.
Then after that is Soul Ring, which, as you would think, similar to Command Tower, it does have new art.
Spooky. Solemn Simulacrum is next.
Then we've got Stitcher's Supplier. Who knew that Stitcher's Supplier would be such a, when it came out?
Classic.
It's like Draft Chaff, and then it's just like, no, I want Stitcher's Supplier in like every
mill deck I can, yeah. Then we have the Suspicious Bookcase, which also has new art.
Very suspicious. After that is Tainted Wood, which is the, what are these called? Oh, the Tainted Lands, yeah. They just are called Tainted Lands. What is that called?
Talisman of Resilience is next.
Then it is Temple of Malady, which is the Golgari Scryland.
Milady. Temple of the False God.
After that is Terramorphic Expanse.
Yeah. Tranquil Thicket is up next.
Tree of Tales, another artifact land, up next.
Twilight Mire.
After that is Vault of Whispers.
It's like 5 lands in a row.
Yep.
Vile Mutilator, which was a card from the main set.
Then there's Viridescent Bog, which is the Golgari Filter land.
Whisper Silk Cloak.
Woodland Cemetery. Yeah, there's a lot of lands here at the end.
And then finally, 7 Swamps and 7 Forests.
Yeah, and I like what you said earlier, and I just want to reiterate, one thing they've really done with the precons that I think has brought the value up.
So many.
Is there used to be around 25 plus basic lands. And now we're down in the teens, like 14, right? That's just 11 more land cards that are like dual lands or, well, I say dual lands that tap for multiple mana. Which I think is a really good change that they've made over the last year or so to really help these precons be a little bit more powerful and more value.
Yeah, and it's just great if you're getting them and you're going to take it apart, or over time you're like, I want to keep it together, but I really need this Llanowar Waste in another deck that needs it. So you can sort of filter it, swap it out, and not hurt yourself in the process, which is great.
All right, so that is the full reveal for this Death Toll deck, which is the Golgari Recursion deck from Duskmourn, this precon. After the break, we are going to come back, and Jimmy is going to break down the deck, the stats, and also give some advice on what 10 cards to take out and what 10 cards to add for $50 or less.
This is a fun one.
Yeah, to get this thing up and running, to tangle with quote-unquote normal decks as quickly as possible. So if you're interested in that, stick around. We'll be right back.
All right. Hey, Josh, what you brewing?
A health deck.
Don't you mean life gain?
Nope. I'm trying to eat healthier, but I'm a better deck brewer than I'm a meal planner, so health deck.
Well, you could start by cutting this Korean barbecue card.
What? No way. God, this is tough. It's hard to cut the things I like, but the healthy stuff is expensive. It just totally throws off my curve.
Well, if you want some easy and inexpensive tech, check out ORGAIN. I've been loving their new 30-gram protein shakes as a way to get more nutrition. They help me manage my hunger and maintain a more healthy lifestyle. Even if you're not a bodybuilder, protein is still key to a healthy diet. And ORGAIN shakes actually taste really good without a ton of sugar or artificial sweeteners.
Whoa, that is good. Nice, easy upgrade.
Wait, this isn't food, this is Ristic Study. Why is this in here?
For card draw? Duh.
ORGAIN 30-gram protein shakes are available at Costco and Orgain.com. If you want to get in on the delicious protein-packed nutrition today, head to Orgain.com/command and use code COMMAND for 20% off your order. Once again, that's ORGAIN.com/command for 20% off. And make sure you use our promo code COMMAND so they know we sent you.
Gobbos and gremlins of all ages, it's me, Targo, Goblin, Weaponsmith. When I came up with my hit invention, the rock, everybody thunk I'd never do no better. I mean, what beats rock? Paper? Ridiculous. But now I done it. I transformified rock into pet rock. I'm gonna make me $1 million. Good thing I got Shopify. See, I wanna spend my time thinkifying new products, not Shopifying my old ones. That's what Shopify do. They're the business behind the business. They make the selling part easy, so I'm free to come up with even bolder boulders. I mean, before I had Shopify, I could only pedal my pebbles as far as I could chuck them. But now my reach is global. Best part, they got the #1 checkout on the planet. So it ain't no wonder brands like Allbirds and the Command Zone use Shopify. Now I can find homes for Rockbird, Rocktavia, and Rocco.
I'm real, not a rock.
Because businesses that rock sell on Shopify.
Upgrade your business and get the same checkout we use. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/TCZ, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/TCZ to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/TCZ. Yes! I win! Probably, anyway.
Probably. What's going on?
I just goldfished a huge turn on ARCHIDEKT. Check it out, they've got the best playtester in the business. Playing and tapping your cards is as simple as clicking them. Everything goes right where you want it, but you can drag things by hand and group them together in different ways too. Then there's easy shortcut keys for things like making copies, sending cards between zones, and starting the next turn.
Nice, so this is a Traxo. All that proliferating's gotta take a while.
It doesn't actually. Just right click and hit proliferate all counters.
Oh wow. Yeah, you probably do win.
I think so.
ARCHIDEKT is the best place to browse, brew, and playtest commander decks. Just go to archidekt.com/commandzone to get started.
That's ARCHIDEKT.com/command zone.
All right, welcome back everybody to the Death Toll Precon reveal. And now we're in the Death Toll Precon upgrade side of this video. That's right, just like a door.
Yeah, we're unlocking the budget upgrade side
yeah.
of this episode. Yeah.
Oh, it's terrifying. So we're going to talk about the deck stats and sort of what is in this precon, and then we'll do the upgrade goals, what cards we're going to take out, what cards we're going to put in, and I've got a nice list of honorable mentions as well because they deserve to mention.
Extra value.
They were honorable, yeah. All right, so let's talk about the stats. Okay. So, it's echoing still. Yeah.
All right. Ramp cards in this deck. There are a lot. There are 15 cards that ramp you.
Makes sense. Green. There are 8 types of ways to draw cards in this deck.
So maybe a little on the low side.
A little bit.
11 targeted interaction spells.
That number targeted you with the pronunciation bug.
11.
There are 2 board wipes.
Seems slightly low for a recursion deck, yep. And 38 total lands.
Okay.
Let's talk about deck-specific stats.
Yeah, so this is where things get interesting. There are 20 ways to mill yourself in this deck, which is a lot, including your commander, notably.
It wants to hit Delirium really bad,
Yeah, it wants to hit Delirium really badly. However, there's only 6 sources of recursion that are that again, your commander counts as 1. So
and you have one that you sort of always have access to. So you can have a little low, but it does seem on the low side.
Does seem low, especially considering it's got all these 7 drops, a Hornet Queen, and all that sort of stuff in there.
There are 10 cards with Delirium.
Yep, or care about Delirium.
Right, basically. Care about Delirium, yep.
19 of the cards have 2 types, so Artifact Creature or Enchantment Creature, and 4 of them notably are the lands, like the Artifact lands.
Yeah, and this speaks to Rendmaw and whether you would maybe even consider running that as your commander out of the box. But 19 is kind of low, right? Like, I think if you have a Rendmaw deck, then you're looking for that number to be closer to like 80.
Yeah, and you probably want to have something that affects the tokens that are coming out as well to play into that theme a little bit more.
Yeah, speaking of tokens, there are 12 token makers in the deck. So, again, not high enough on that to be really a token deck or something I would consider a token deck. Yeah.
But it's sort of high enough that when you play a game, there will be tokens.
Right.
Okay, so let's talk about the upgrade goals.
Yeah.
So when I was looking at the deck out of the box, the first thing I was like, well, this has definitely got a split focus. They're with, right, like 12 token makers, but also not that much recursion means that they're kind of doing more of a balance between the two commanders, where normally it feels like it's edging towards one side more.
Yeah.
So I think for me, what I was looking to have as a goal for the deck was just to basically make it function better. And recursion plus the self-mill seemed like the easiest way to go that direction because, again, there are 20 sources of self-mill, and the Delirium ties directly into the face commander of Winter.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, especially when you consider, I like pointing out the self-mill, right? There's 20 pieces of self-mill already. If you are saying, well, I got to choose one of these directions, either more towards recursion or more towards tokens. Well, if you go towards tokens, the self-mill part that's already a huge part of the deck doesn't help you as much.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go towards recursion, well, my deck's already self-milling, so the recursion will be good. And I like that as sort of a lesson on sort of how to think about an upgrade like this. Mm-hmm. Whereas, taking Rendmaw and making a brand new deck out of it from scratch is a totally different thing than trying to upgrade this Precon relatively quickly, like without a complete overhaul.
Yeah, especially for newer players as well, that's just looking to get going and they like the theme of the deck. It's a much more daunting task to be like, all right, rebuild it from scratch with Rendmaw.
Yeah, this is more about like, look what it's doing and then lean towards, because usually Precon decks are trying to do a couple of things.
Yeah.
And sometimes one's primary and one's not, and sometimes it's more balanced. But either way, like make choice, go towards that.
Yeah, so I wanted to lean more into the recursion support and play off the fact that we have all that going already with the self-mill. But because there already is a low token sub-theme in there, I thought that we could also add in a couple of cards that's not going to go away, right? So, and I'm not going to cut all of them because some of them are actually really powerful, like those ooze makers. So there's also some ways to add in a card that both benefits from having cards in your graveyard and having tokens. So we'll see that in the ads here.
Yeah, you think of token making almost as more of a payoff for the self-mill.
Yeah, exactly.
And less of like, hey, but you don't want to go one step like, hey, I'm going to do a thing that is going to make all my and then double the amount of tokens I make or something like that.
Yeah, because the tokens, right, when they die, they're not going to your graveyard for the Delirium. But if you have the tokens around and you're not going to cut a significant part of that deck, of the cards there, then you may as well do something with it.
Okay.
So the cards to add, remember our total budget here is around $50 for this exercise. And I just separated into two categories really simply here. There's recursion support and then something around the token sub-theme. Okay. So let's go into recursion support. And if it's not obvious, Winter Cynical Opportunist is the commander to choose for this deck.
Yeah. I think as soon as you saw that there were only 19 cards with two types, Rendmaw was kind of out.
Yeah, exactly. So first up, we have 6. I love this card. I've found that it just fits into so many decks. This is 2 and a green for a legendary creature, Treefolk. It's a 2/4 and it has reach, and whenever it attacks, you mill 3 cards and you can put a land from among them into your hand. So it's kind of like adding to the card draw count here, but it also is adding to the mill count. And then the best part, as long as it's your turn, non-land permanent cards in your graveyard have retrace. So that means you can discard a card and then cast a card from among those non-land permanents in addition to paying its other costs.
Discard a land, yeah.
Yeah, discard the land. So
which it gives you the land to discard to cast something else if you want. Yep.
2/4 is a pretty good attacker in general.
Especially on a 3-drop, yeah.
Yeah, and Winter also has a similar thing where when it attacks, you get to mill. So there's a lot of ways to fill up your graveyard, and this just adds recursion, adds some card draw, helps you hit your land drops, sort of does the whole thing.
I mean, I think this is absolutely card draw, especially considering that when you get lands from it, you turn those lands into a spell that's
into a bigger spell.
So it's actually pretty quickly becomes better than drawing a card. It's card selection as well.
Yeah, great in the early game, amazing in the late game when you just have an extra land in your hand already. You don't have to attack with 6 necessarily. But yeah, I love this card. I think you're going to see this card pop up a lot in the future. It's $4.50 right now.
$4.50.
Yeah.
Not that, yeah, pretty good. Okay, what's the next card?
It's Rise of the Witch King.
Oh, yeah.
So we're going to Lord of the Rings here.
Limited All-Star.
Yeah, this card's nuts. 2 black and a green for a sorcery, and it says each player sacrifices a creature. If you sacrifice a creature this way, you may return another permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So I love this because it includes permanents, which is exactly what Winter is doing as well. It wants to recur permanents. That's why they have all these planeswalkers in the deck. If this was just reanimate a creature, it wouldn't be as good, I think, in this case. And we're a little bit low in the board wipe, so this kind of adds in a removal / mini board wipe around the table.
Yeah, I mean, you can even get a land back and make it ramp if you're in that position. But you can also get something better depending on what's in there. So.
Yeah, and this works well with the tokens that we have too. Tons of low tokens, really easy to sacrifice one of those instead of a real creature.
Nice, and it was only 50 cents.
Yeah, this card's awesome. Next up is Josh's quiet favorite.
Yeah, it's Shigeki Jukai Visionary. It's 1 and a green for a 1/3 legendary enchantment creature, Snake Druid. So
got 2 types.
Got 2 types.
Perfect.
Also has 2 abilities. 1 and a green, tap it, return Shigeki to its owner's hand, reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield, tapped, and then put the rest into your graveyard. So
Ram.
Yep. And then it also has a channel ability, so you can play green XX and discard Shigeki. Return X target non-legendary cards from your graveyard to your hand.
Wow. So for 4 mana, you get 1 card back. So that's a little more expensive than a, Eternal Witness.
Yeah, this card does so much because it's a blocker early. Eventually, you bounce it back to your hand to get a land into play, and then you can even play it again if you need to, and redo that again later. Or you can then use the channel ability now that it's back in your hand, and basically turn it into card draw when you need it.
Yeah, and the cool thing is you can put this in the graveyard, exile a Winter, put it on the battlefield with a finality counter, tap it, bounce it to your hand, remove the finality counter, and just start over again.
That's really sweet.
So this card is just like perfect for the deck.
It does everything, and it's 2 types.
It does everything, and it's 2 types.
It's a 2-drop? Yeah.
So this is $1.25. So
good.
This card will, again, be one of those cards you see, I think, for a long, long time. It's just got everything on there. Next up is a really fun one it's a pet card of mine. It's Incarnation Technique. So this is a 4 and a black sorcery with Demonstrate. So when you cast a spell, you may copy it. If you do, choose an opponent to also copy it. And it says mill 5 cards, then return a creature card from the graveyard to the battlefield. So it doesn't need to be from among the cards you milled. But for 5 mana, this could be milled 10 cards, return a creature, and then you're choosing ideally the opponent that is the spells-based deck or the deck that doesn't have as many impactful creatures to bring back out.
Yeah, or they just don't really have a graveyard yet.
Yeah.
And you're just saying,
mill
how
5,
good is the best thing out of your top 5?
Yeah,
Will it
exactly.
even be a creature?
Yeah.
That as Demonstrate cards go, this is a pretty good one because of the way you can sort of make it one-sided.
Yeah, and you can maybe even cut a deal. Like, hey, I know you have that scary thing in there. If you reanimate that to blow up something else that's a problem on the board, right?
Yeah.
Those are really easy to pick apart by your opponents because it's just like, no, you're giving them so much value and you're giving them a removal spell on top. But sometimes it just works out that way.
I'm surprised to see that this was $9 or is $9.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Pretty high. Yeah, it speaks to its power for sure.
Yeah.
Is that the most expensive card that you have on the list?
No, once we get into the token sub theme, there are a couple that are
there's
up there.
more than that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
But those are, I think, because of just availability as well, because they're both part of like smaller specialty sets.
Got it. Well, we'll get to this in a second.
Yeah.
After that, what's up?
Ripples of Undeath. Another Modern Horizons card here. 1 in the black for an enchantment. At the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, mill 3 cards. If this card just stopped right there,
you'd still play it.
You'd still play it, yeah. Then you may pay 1 and 3 life if you do put a card from among those into your hand. So it's card draw, mill, just again, it helps the engine go. And I think in this deck, you want to be able to have some selection because not always are you going to want to dump everything into your graveyard.
Yeah.
And, with every mill deck, that always happens where you mill something, you're like, oh man,
I wish I had that.
Kind of wish I just drew that one instead.
Yeah, you just pay 1 and 3 life, no big deal.
Very good, yeah. So that's $2.25.
All right. After that is Stitch Together, which was $4.
Yeah.
It's a sorcery that says return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, but it has threshold, and you return that card from your graveyard to the battlefield instead if there are 7 or more cards in your graveyard. And just 7 or more cards. The threshold doesn't care about types.
Yeah. So again, very good in a deck that doesn't have as much recursion as you want. It's basically Reanimate 2.0. You're going to have 7 cards in your graveyard. And the art is very Duskmourn.
Yeah, there's 20 ways to self-mill more now because you've added some.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's almost always just going to get the thing to the battlefield for 2 black mana. You don't lose any life. $4?
Yeah. Not bad. I do cut a couple of mill cards, though.
Oh, you cut a couple?
Yeah.
All right.
The worst.
So we're going to be probably around 20 still?
Yeah. Okay. Next up, we have the second sort of topic here, which is the token sub-theme. And wow, I just moved the card out of the way.
Yeah.
Okay. The token sub-theme that we're building into.
Oh, new category.
New category, yeah. So the first up is Azoni, Center of the Web.
Sweet card.
Yeah, Josh knows this card quite well. 4 black and a green for a Menache Elf Detective. It's a 5/4, and whenever Azoni enters or attacks, you may collect evidence 4. If you do, create 2 2/1 black and green Spire creature tokens with Menace and Reach. So collect evidence is go to your graveyard, find and add up mana value, so it's at least 4. If it's just one card that has mana value 4, you can just grab that and exile it. It could be 2 2-drops, 4 1-drops.
You
whatever.
can over evidence too. So if you have
Yeah.
a 6-drop in there, you can collect that as your evidence for 4.
Yeah. So a 5/4 menace, when it enters or attacks, you get to do this. And then the best part of this card says sacrifice 4 tokens, surveil 2, then draw 2 cards. You gain 2 life.
Yep.
So you're going to have a ton of other token makers in this deck. You have your Archenemy Genesis, your Hornet Queens, and all that stuff. This is also a Zoni's going to make 2 tokens. So later game, you can surveil, which is great for milling, drawing, and life gain. All adds up.
Yeah, this card very powerful.
Yeah.
Just, once you have 4 spiders too, it feels so bad to kill it.
Yeah. And this is an amazing card to reanimate.
Makes you
from your
impossible
graveyard,
to
too.
attack. It's great.
Next up.
The next one is my favorite draft archetype in MKM.
There's a lot of
for
JLK
sure.
cards in this upgrade, actually.
Yeah, I did play it on one of the Game Nights lives. Insidious Roots. This deck was so fun and limited.
Yeah.
It was crazy. You use it with Chalk Outline and just go nuts.
Oh, yeah.
It's a green and a black for an enchantment. It says creature tokens you control have tap to add 1 mana of any color. So it's Cryptolithorite for creature tokens. But then it says whenever 1 or more creature cards leave your graveyard, create an 0/1 green plant creature token, and then put a 1/1 counter on each plant you control. So if you have a lot of instances of 1 card leaving, I mean, this would even work with Ripples of Undeath and things like that.
because it mills and then gets your...
Yeah, and so every time you have 1 or more cards leave, you create an 0/1 and then put a 1/1 counter on all your plants. So the first time you do it, it's a 1/2. Yeah. But by the 4th or 5th time you're doing it, something's turning into like a 7/8. And then you're like, I got a 7/8, a 6/7, a 5/6. It's nuts.
Yeah. A lot of accounting, but very powerful. And again, helps you build out that board state.
Yep.
Next up, we have a fun one. From
we didn't even say the price.
Oh, that's right.
Zoni was 50 cents, which I don't think we said. And Insidious Roots was $3. I'm surprised it was that high.
Yeah, it's a good card.
It's interesting because Zoni is a rare and Insidious Roots is uncommon.
From the same set.
Yeah.
All right, next up, I guess 2-drop versus 6-drop, right?
So is this the most expensive? No, there's
one more
Okay.
that's more expensive after
All
this.
right.
So this one is Amzu Swarm's Hunger. Raise your hand if you've ever seen this card before.
It was $10 though.
Yeah, because I think it's a clue set, so it's a little bit hard to pick up.
I was like, what is this from? I don't think I've seen it.
3 black and a green for a 3/3 flying menace, insect shaman. Other insects you control have menace, and whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard, you may create a 1/1 black and green insect creature token, then put a number of 1/1 counters on it equal to the greatest mana value among those cards. Do this only once each turn. So at your end step now with your commander out, you both get a card permanent finality counter out on it, and you also get a 1/1 that could be like a 6/6 or a 5/5 with menace. This is one of the ways I'm adding in a win con to the deck, basically.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, and it's very similar to Insidious Roots with that leave the battlefield and make tokens, and those tokens are big.
So it's kind of also recursion support because every time you reanimate or something, you're going to get this ability to trigger.
Yeah, that's smart. It's both categories, right? It's token support, but it's also recursion. Yeah.
All right, one more, and this is that was $10.
That was a $10. The Amzu.
And now we finally have the most expensive card, which is $11, and it's because it's from Warhammer. It's Canoptic Scarab Swarm. So there's a 4-mana artifact creature insect with 1/1. It's a 1/1 with flying, and it has the ability called Feeder Mandibles. When it enters the battlefield, exile target player's graveyard for each artifact or land card exiled this way. Create a 1/1 colorless insect artifact creature token with flying. So this is Graveyard Hate. It's also an artifact creature. It's an amazing thing to reanimate with your commander. It also synergizes randomly with Amzu because it makes insects.
That's interesting. Could you ever see yourself using this on yourself at a certain point? Like you're in your end game, and you go, I've got 60 cards in my graveyard. I'm just going to do this and make a bajillion 1/1s. Good luck, everybody.
Yep, that's exactly what I would want to do. I think I may have actually done this in the Warhammer Game Nights, is use it on myself. I think I did something similar. But either way, yeah, that's like the ideal case, I think, because you're going to have 15 creatures in there.
Yeah, I mean, but
make a board.
It's Commander. Very often you have an opponent who's playing around with their graveyard too. Yeah. And you're like, I mean, this kind of hoses them and does the same thing in some ways. So yeah. Okay, very cool. And that was $11, which brings our grand total. Jimmy, you came in under budget at $46. Congratulations.
I did it.
Yeah. We owe you $4.
Oh, how do I collect?
How that works. Don't tell everybody else.
Next time, I'm putting in 10 lands. All right, let's talk about the cards that we cut to make room for these. The first up is Gnarlwood Dryad. This is just a 1/1 Death Toucher. You're going to be making insect tokens. Also, right? This thing is
not good enough.
Not good enough. Yeah. The next is Skola Grove Dancer, which is whenever lands milled into your graveyard, you gain 1 life, or sorry, put in your graveyard from anywhere, and then 2 and a green to mill a card into your graveyard.
Again, not good enough, right?
If you ever activate this, you're already losing.
You spent 5 mana to mill 1 and have a 2/2. It's just not. Yeah.
Maybe gain a life.
It's not good. Yeah.
Next up is Inscription of Abundance. So this is a 1 green with a kicker of 2 and a green. You choose 1. You can choose any number if you kick it for 5 mana. So you get to put counters on a creature. You can have a player gain X life, where X is the greatest power among creatures they control, or you can have a creature fight another creature. This makes sense because you have a 2/5 Death Toucher as your commander, but otherwise, none of the other things make much sense in this deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next up is the Suspicious Bookcase. Now, this is one of those 2-card types, artifact creatures, but it's a 3 mana tap. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. So I don't love cards that are better as a delirium fodder than being on the battlefield.
You want to be both.
Yeah, you want to be good on the battlefield. And I get, you can make your commander unblockable, but the only part of your commander being unblockable as good as that mills 3. And you have a ton of other milling options in the deck, so this just didn't add up for me.
Yeah, it's too expensive again to activate too.
Yeah.
For what it does. Yeah.
Next up is a little debatable. It's Harrow. So again, for 3 mana, you sack a land, get an instant and a land in your graveyard, and then you ramp basically. I just think that there's tons of ramp already, and we have so many ways to mill that you'd rather cast a powerful 3-drop than whatever it is. Like 6, I'd take over Harrow any time of the day. Because it's going to mill more over the course of the game, and it's going to be able to retrace stuff.
Yeah, it feels like you won't have trouble hitting Delirium, and this is overcosted as ramp otherwise, right?
Yeah.
So, because it's 3 mana to ramp 1, that's kind of the equivalent of 3 mana rock. And a 3 mana rock, at least the 2 lands come in untapped, so maybe you can get some mana back that way. But often you find yourself in a position where like they're going to come in untapped, I can't even use that mana, which makes it a lot worse.
Yep. Next up, we have 2 cards that basically are creatures that enter and mill and then get some bonus. I just both think they're both overcosted, and we again have tons of ways to mill in the deck already, so we're not going to miss it. So it's Carrion Grub, 3 in the black. When it enters, you mill 4, and it gets +X/+O, which is the greatest power among creatures in your graveyard. Boring. And then Moldgraph Millipede, which is 4 in a green for a 2/2, enters, mills 3, and then you put a 1/1 counter on it for each creature in your graveyard. Doesn't have trample or anything else. So both of these are, I think, already overcosted at 4 and 5 mana. You have other ways of milling, not really worth it.
Yeah. They both just sort of get bigger too, which is not good enough, right? Like you want, you want more than that.
Yeah. Then we have a bunch of really high end. So if you put out the curve of this deck, there's a ton of 5, 6, 7, 8 drops. And not great because they're great to mill and reanimate, but they also want to be very impactful. And I kind of added in like an Ozoni and a Canoptic Scarab Swarm and like Amzu and stuff. And these are also high CMC cards. So I found some ones to cut on the other end.
Yeah, it's always that balance of like, hey, I can reanimate stuff for free and I want to cheat that mana cost and get a lot of value. So if it's a 7 or 8 drop, it feels like it's really good. But the problem is you draw those cards sometime and then they're like, sitting in your hand. And that's
a discard outlet in this.
Yeah, it's like you mulliganed a couple of times if you get 2 of these.
Yeah.
So you want to lessen the variance, and that means like taking out these big cards, even though it would feel good to reanimate them, and putting in stuff that's like more reasonable on your curve that you could cast and are still good value if you reanimate.
Yeah, you're much happier to cast a Ozoni instead of holding a Vile Mutilator in your hand, which is another card I cut, which is already as an additional cost to cast it, you have to sack a creature or enchantment. So it's like, oh, you have to reanimate this.
Yeah.
And when it enters, everyone sacks a non-token enchantment and a non-token creature. So it's like, okay.
Each opponent. So at least you don't.
Yeah, so there's some upside there. But again,
it's a good payoff, but you don't want to cast it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And sorry to Giant Appendage. I love you. You're a 7/7 that deals trample damage and creates more giant appendages, but Giant Ediphage, you're not good enough for me.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's a fun meme.
It is a very fun meme. And then Moldgraph Monstrosity. This requires it to die to exile it. Then you return 2 creature cards at random from your graveyard to the battlefield. We just added in more corrosion support. This is a really weak version of that. It's also a 7 mana 8/8 that has to die.
Yeah. And 3 green, so it is hard to cast.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So that's all 10 of them out.
Yeah, I'm also kind of wondering if you get a finality counter on Moldgraph, if you even get a dice trigger from it, because it needs to die then exile. I don't know. A rules lawyer can help me out with that one. So that might actually be a non-bow. All right, so I did want to mention some honorable mentions here because we're in Black-Green. We just had a bunch of MDFCs printed in Modern Horizons and older MDFCs as well. So outside of the regular upgrades, you can basically and I don't recommend to do a full 1-for-1, but maybe a 1-for-2 where you can swap in an MDFC for 1 land, but don't do 2 MDFCs for 2 lands, if that makes sense. Like, you're starting to get a little...
No, I think you can. I would say...
Really?
Yeah. I disagree. I think you can do, especially starting with 38 lands.
Yeah.
I think you could safely do 4 MDFCs, just straight across swaps. And then...
Past that.
Then past that, I would do 1-for-2. So I would be fine saying, like, I have 33 lands plus 5 MDFCs that are lands. I think that I would still count at 38. But then the next one, I would say, I really want to replace a spell, and then the one after that, I could replace land. But I think you can go pretty deep. Like, MDFCs are very good.
Yeah, and I would say don't be gun-shy either about playing them just as lands if you need to hit that land drop.
Oh, you should look at them as lands first.
First, yeah.
And you play them pretty much default as land, especially since a lot of them are tapped.
Yeah.
So you just don't mess around with it. Don't play around being like, well, I hope I draw an untapped land because I'd really like to cast the spell side of this. You're like, if I have a place to play a tap land that's not going to mess up, my sequencing, I play this as a tap land and I don't look back.
Yeah.
You do have Golgari Rot Farm too, so you do have a chance in here.
Yeah, that's a good point.
To buy it back. So.
Yeah. So just to mention them, Revitalize and Repast comes in tapped, but it's a black-green instant, or black or green instant, and you can put a 1/1 counter on a creature and gains indestructible. This card is just amazing. But it is a tap land. The next 2 from Modern Horizons 3 were Bridgeworks Battle, which is a fight spell, and then Disciple of Freyalise, which is a sack creature, gain X life, draw X cards with the creature's power.
It's a card draw spell.
Both of those cards can actually come in untapped. You do have to pay 3 life for them. So those are just very easy. And again, Bridgeworks Battle, your commander does have Death Touch. This replaces the Inscription of Abundance from before as well. And then if we go further back, Colony Ambush is a fight spell, does come in tapped, but again, your commander has Death Touch. Balligate Recovery makes an immediate amount of sense in this deck because you're milling.
It's just the best one of Green's MDFCs and goes in every green deck.
And then this one can come in untapped, Agadeem's Awakening, which is a recursion spell. So why not? And then finally, 2 more things. One is the Twitching Doll. It's an artifact creature, so it counts as 2, and it's a mana rock, and you can later sacrifice it to make a bunch of 2/2 green spiders. When I saw this card, I was like, this is the perfect card for this deck, and it's in Duskmourn, but it's not here. And then finally, the last honorable mention is just called Big Ol' Permanence. Because notably, Winter can reanimate permanents. So if you're not going the creature route so much, you're like, you know what? I want to just get some wild, huge permanents on the battlefield. You can do that instead. So like big, hard-to-cast cards like Zendikar Resurgent, Chroma's Memorial.
Remember when Zendikar Resurgent was like one of the best cards in the format?
Yeah.
It's too expensive now, but if you can cheat it in.
If you can cheat it in, very good, right? It's like Great Henge took its place, but Zendikar Resurgent is great in a deck like this because you can reanimate it with a finality counter. Cacophony Unleashed, which is like a non-enchantment board wipe. Chromatic Orrery. Imagine getting this out with your commander. Pretty sweet.
Good if you can cheat it, yeah.
Cityscape Leveler. Cards like Eldrazi Conscription.
Oh boy.
Excalibur Sword of Eden. This is a 12-mana artifact equipment that equip legendary creature 2, and it gives the creature +10/+0 in vigilance. But cheating this out is kind of hilarious. So that is another road that you could take the upgrade that I just wanted to mention. That if you're like, you know what, I don't care about my creatures, I don't care about these things. I want to put out huge permanents. So planeswalkers and giant artifacts or things that are just you would normally not be able to cast. You could do that instead.
Yeah, I think we're going to add a lot of that stuff that's like 7 CMC or more. You might want to add some more ways in the deck to sort of loot or discard
outlets. Yeah, there's a lot
greater
of them
good or something
in
like that, just to get you to be able to get those things in the graveyard when they're in your hand.
Yeah, there's a lot of cards in black that do that.
There's a lot of colorless cards that'll let you do it, and green has a few as well. So yeah.
All right, so I think this deck, how it plays very specifically, is that it can do really scary things at your end step. So you want to focus primarily on making sure you don't get too scary too fast before you have the ability to keep it going. Because it's on end step, it's like, cool, on end step, we'll bring back this massive, huge, scary thing, pass the turn, and then everyone has a turn to beat on you. So that's why I like having the mini token makers like Insidious Roots and other things that just sort of keep your board state stable. And I think in the early game, it's more important to just prioritize milling a bunch and making sure your graveyard is ready so that if you are able to trigger your commander a couple of times, then you're really cooking. But if it's like, only have 3 cards in here, I have to exile all of them to get one thing out, pass turn, next turn, I don't have the ability to do it again, or if I mill, I might not hit Delirium.
Or they kill your commander and they turn off the faucet and you're basically
Not great. Yeah. So I'd say like get cards out that slow opponents down from going after you. Don't be reanimating planeswalkers early, right? Because that incentivizes people to attack you. Get like a Hornet Queen instead, and then stop the aggression. And then from there, you can really start building out the black-green value engine that wins the game.
Get your value engine set up first, then make your moves. And I think that's generally the right way to go with most decks that have engines.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. To the listeners, what do you think about this Death Toll deck? Are you excited about it? What new cards do you think will slot perfectly into your already existing decks? Or do you think are broken and awesome and have cool combos? If so, list those combos in the comments or let us know on Twitter. Or you can email them to us or just talk to us in any way, basically.
Yeah, find us at a MagicCon, I guess, and tell us about this very specific episode and the Precon.
Yeah, and show us your deck.
Yeah, definitely. I want to see also where Winter goes and if someone's able to build a sweet Rendmaw deck.
I'm sure there's a cool Rendmaw deck where like most of the cards are two types and it's really doing the thing, and it has
a bunch of ways to also clear the board.
Yeah, exactly, when it needs to. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's just like, give everybody birds, let them kill each other, and then boom, kill all those birds, and then, exactly.
All right. Before we end the episode here, we got to talk about our sponsors one more time because you might be interested now in picking up this Precon or any of the other Precons from Duskmourn. You can do so at cardkingdom.com/command. We have them behind us here. We got so many really cool cards coming out in Duskmourn. The set and the theme, if it's for you, go all in because Bloomburrow might not have been your jam, right?
They can both be your jam. People like cute creatures and horror movies,
Yeah. Or you could just be one or the other. You could be whatever. You could not care about any of them. Want to pre-order something in the future. In that case, cardkingdom.com/command literally does have your back in every which way possible. You could also want to trade in old stuff and send it into their buy list and get new cards as a result from in-store credit. Really is the place that Josh and I trust our Game Nights live decks to. Like, we really love Card Kingdom because they send you all the cards in a single package. It's so convenient to get it all going at the same time. And when it comes to building the precons or upgrading them, we're on that website constantly looking up the cards, the versions that we want, the printings, the foil versions, whatever it is. Cardkingdom.com/command has the inventory for your Magic needs, so check them out today.
Yeah, and of course, once you get your hands on all those cards, these new precons or whatever, if you crack a really cool, card from this set, you want to keep it protected, ultrapro.com/command is the best place to go to get all your game accessories, your sleeves, your deck boxes, your playmats. They have awesome dice. They got wall scrolls. They got binders. They have art from this set, from a bunch of the past sets. Like
Secret
Ultrapro's
Lairs.
been in the game so long. Yeah, they also just have if you just want guild logos on your stuff, they probably got that. And they also have stuff like their new Mana 8 product, which is, each color. They've got the red mana symbol on white playmats and white deck boxes and white sleeves that look really, really cool. They're also great for having people sign things. If you go to events and conventions and stuff like that. Whatever you need, UltraPro's got it. It's going to be high quality. It's going to protect your game pieces. And we can't give any other, better endorsement than that. So just go to ultrapro.com/command if you want to pick up any of that stuff. Plus, if you go to their website, they often have all kinds of deals and discounts and things. So there's just a lot going on there. Definitely worth checking out.
All right, cleanup step. Big thanks to our amazing team at the Command Zone. We got some new names, so let's shout them out. Thank you to Eric Lem, Rachel Kendra, Gaurav Galati, Jamie Block, Jordan Pridgeon, Jake Boss, Josh Murphy, Manson Lung, Karina Cruz, Jared Robinson, Sebastian Salazar, Evan Limburger, Sam Waldo, and Rachel Weeks.
All right, everybody. Thanks for watching.
And we'll see you next time.
Peace.
Oh,
it almost landed on the thing.
For your attention. For further inquiries, send an email to commandcast@rocketjump.com or ask us on Twitter @JFWong and @JoshLeeQuai. See you later, alligator.
Greetings, humans.